In this lecture, we're going to do two things. First, we'll create links for visiting individual songs. Secondly, we'll create the template for the song record we registered in the previous lecture. At the moment, there isn't a way to access an individual song unless you directly visit it. We'll start things off by making the links work. We're already looping through the songs in the template. Inside it, there's a link we skipped over. We'll want to link this to the song in the current iteration. We can use the router link component to generate a dynamic link. Replace this with the router link component. The href attribute will need to be replaced with the to property. We'll bind the property so that we can pass in an object to create the correct link based on the name. In the object, add the name property. Set it to song. This value is the name we assigned to the record. Unlike other routes, we need to provide the ID path parameter. In the previous lecture, we saw what happens if we exclude the ID. The Vue router will not recognize that as a valid path. It'll redirect the user back to the home page. We must provide an ID. If the route has dynamic parameters, then we can add the params property to the object. The params property can be used to add dynamic parameters to the generated URL. It's an object where each key value pair can be used for the dynamic segments in your path. There's one dynamic segment for the record, which we named ID. We'll add the ID parameter. Set this to the song.id property. The router will be able to generate a link to the song based on the data provided. It'll be able to replace the dynamic segment we have in the path with the ID we're passing in. It's important the property name in the params object matches the name we assigned to the segment. That should take care of it. Let's try testing the links on the home page. After clicking the link, we're correctly redirected to the page for the song. The ID parameter was replaced with the actual ID. We can even see the ID parameter outputted onto the page. That verifies that we correctly created a link. Let's work on the template next. In another tab, I have the song.html static template opened. It's a fairly basic template. We can break this down into two sections. We have the header and comments sections. We'll tackle them individually. First things first, we'll need to move the template from the static HTML file to the component. Open the song.html template in your editor. The sections have comments above them saying music header, form, and comments. The first section holds the header of the page. The second section holds the comments. We'll need both for the page. Copy both sections and paste them into the song component template block. When you're pasting them over, completely replace the div tag with the expression we had in the component. We're finished with moving the template. The next thing we'll take care of is loading the song data. We'll need to grab the data related to the song. We're going to use it to help us render the template for the component. This will require the songs collection object from the Firebase configuration file. In the script block, import it into the component. The path is @/includes/Firebase. We're going to need it to request the song data from Firebase. We'll make the request when the component is created. We can do that by defining the created_lifecycle function in the component. It will be asynchronous because we're making a request to the database. Be sure to add the async keyword to take advantage of the ES 2017 feature. We can query the database for a document by using the document function. Inside the function, we'll call the document function on the songs collection object. The document function will retrieve a document by its ID. The ID of the document can be found inside the path parameters. Luckily, we know how to retrieve the value from the path. The ID can be accessed via the this.route.params object. Pass this into the function. The ID is assigned under the name ID. Lastly, we'll chain the get function. This function will return a document snapshot. We'll store the snapshot in a variable called docSnapshot. This task is asynchronous. We'll add the await keyword before the function. It's been a while since we've made a request to the database with the document function. We could have used the where function like we've been doing so far. The difference is the where function offers more flexibility. It's capable of returning multiple documents, whereas the document function can retrieve a single document by its ID. The document function is more than suitable for this task. If you decide to use a different value for the path parameter, you would need to use the where function to retrieve the document data for the page. It's something to keep in mind. Moving forward, we'll need to store the result in our component. We'll store it as component data. It isn't necessary to store it inside the state, but that's always an option if that's what you want to do. In the component, define the data function with an object being returned. We're going to add one property called songs. It'll be an empty object by default. We'll assign the response data to this data property. Back in the created_lifecycle function, update the song data property to the value returned by the docSnapshot.data function. We won't store the ID because it's already in the path parameter. We have a way to access it. We're almost finished. It's possible that the user may visit a song that doesn't exist or did exist but was removed from the database for one reason or another. Firebase does not throw an error if it can't find a document. It'll continue to return a snapshot. We can check if a document exists by checking the exists property in the snapshot. After the snapshot variable definition, we'll add a conditional block. The condition will check if the docSnapshot.exists property is false. This property is present in the snapshot regardless if the document exists. We can use it to check if the document is in the collection. If it turns out that it doesn't exist, we'll want to redirect the user away from the page. Inside the conditional block, call the this.router.push method. We'll pass in an object so that we can redirect the user based on the name. In the object, we'll set the name property to home. Lastly, in the block, we'll return the function to prevent it from running further. That should take care of making sure that the page doesn't get loaded when the song is invalid. Let's update the template to display the song data. We copied over two sections from the static template. The first section we have in the template is called Music Header. We'll work on this first. Nested deep inside the section are two div tags. They have a comment above them that says Song Info. In the first div tag, replace the static text with the expression song.modifiedName. Next, replace the static text inside the second div tag with the expression song.genre. These are the keys we gave each song object when we inserted them into the database. As a reminder, you should be using the modified name property instead of the original name property. The modified name is the property that gets updated in case the user wants to update the name of the song. The original name property is what stores the original name of the MP3 file when it was uploaded. Let's check if everything works. In your browser, view a song. Everything is rendering without a problem. The console in the developer tools hasn't produced errors, which is a good sign. Let's test if the redirect works. Inside the address bar, change the ID to something completely random. We're redirected to the home page. Perfect. We're finished with the basics of the template. In the next few lectures, we'll complete the template by working on the comments.